thank you for coming out tonight. Now, many of you know that I'm the training manager over at General Dynamics Mission Systems. And a couple of weeks ago, we had a joint training session. And we had the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, and the Marines. And so we asked the question, if you're in a field environment and a scorpion comes into your tent, what do you do? So the Navy guy stood up and he said, well, I get a broom and sweep it out. Well, that's a very environmentally friendly answer there, so everybody gave him some applause. But the Army guy, he stood up and goes, no, I take my combat boot and I take care of business. Well, the Marine, he wasn't going to be outdone, so he said, sir, I take my K-bar out and I take care of business. And then the Air Force guy said, well, I call the front desk and ask why there's a tent in my room. All right. Now, we'll pick on the Air Force a little bit. Good evening, I'm Max Bennett, Chairman of the 2016 Huntsville, Madison County Veterans Week activities, and I'll be your Master of Ceremonies for tonight's program. It's my honor to welcome you to the 2016 Veterans Dinner, as the Tennessee Valley proudly recognizes all those who have served in our nation's armed forces. Tonight, we have a veritable who's who of veterans, soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, political figures, military leaders, and of course, veterans. I don't want to let the opportunity pass to recognize a group of folks for their outstanding work year in and year out. So for Veterans Day, I want to start off for these people who work for our Army and our soldiers. About a month ago, special recognition was given to the Redstone Huntsville chapter of AUSA as the best chapter worldwide for 2016. Chapter President John Ryan was joined on stage during the opening ceremony at the Washington Convention Center in Washington, D.C. by General Perna and Command Sergeant Major Sims to accept this prestigious award. Would Chapter President John Wright and the officers and members of the AUSA Board of Directors with us tonight please stand and be recognized as the world's best chapter for AUSA 2016. John does a lot for our community, and Tammy, his wife up here, she's my lieutenant for the breakfast in the morning. She shared a little family story with me, so if I share it with you, don't pass this around too much. But he said John's family always knew that he'd be in a military or he'd be in a government-issued jumpsuit. They just didn't know it would be green. So we're glad that he chose the Army. So, John, thank you, and Tammy for everything that you do for veterans. Also, about 3 weeks ago, the U.S. Army Warrant Officers Association held their national convention after evaluating 67 chapters in 6 worldwide regions. The Redstone Arsenal chapter was also named the 2016 Outstanding Chapter of the Year. Would all warrant officers please stand and be recognized as the world's best chapter of USA WOA for 2016. Warrant officers. We've got a unique community here, guys. You got to know it. You got to know it. Every chapter that starts up around here ends up being the best chapter worldwide because of this community. We have a full night tonight of honoring veterans. Tonight we're going to have some fun, and I hope we can laugh and cry together. We're going to cheer, we're going to applaud and clap until our hands are sore, that's for sure. All to say thank you to some very special veterans who represent all the veterans in the Army and the Armed Forces. Sorry, Army, so I was and we applaud, which we'll also do tonight. But we can do more. Tonight you'll see tributes and thank yous to veterans in many different ways. Tonight we will teach the general public and our children different ways to thank our veterans. Tonight you may learn a thing or two about veterans, about Veterans Day, and about the awards and decorations that are given by the military and by their communities. Tonight we will recognize a single veteran and name that veteran the Huntsville-Madison County Veteran of the Year. We will recognize a single veterans organization as the Huntsville and Madison County's best veterans organization. We will recognize veterans from all wars and all services. We will induct local heroes into the Huntsville-Madison County Hall of Heroes at the courthouse. And we will also induct current Purple Heart recipients into the Military Order of the Purple Heart Honor Roll. In the middle of all this, we're going to have a nice dinner provided by the Braun Center. That's coming up very soon. What do you think of how the room looks tonight? What do you think how the Braun dinner is? After the dinner, you can come up and tell me how nice it is, okay? Because I learned the word taffeta. The ladies call me taffeta. So as you can see, we have a busy night ahead, so we better get started. In a moment, a special guest will sing our national anthem. After that, leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance will be John Wright, President of the Redstone Huntsville Chapter of the Association of the United States Army, shameless plug. And providing our invocation tonight will be Colonel Ken Godfrey, Command Chaplain of the U.S. Army Material Command. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for a special tribute and national anthem sung by Lady Liberty from the Liberty Learning Foundation.
Not like the brazen giant of Greek fame, with conquering limbs astride from land to land. Here on our sea-washed sunset gate shall stand a mighty woman with a torch, whose flame is the imprisoned lightning, and her name, Mother of Exiles. From her beaconed hand goes worldwide welcome. Her mild eyes command the air-bridged harbor that twin cities frame. Keep, ancient lands, your storied pomp, she cries, with silent lips. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. The wretched refuse of your teeming shore, send these your homeless, tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming. And the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
Ladies and gentlemen, we're honored to have many distinguished guests with us in the audience. It's my pleasure to introduce them to you. Please hold your applause until all have been introduced. We're honored to have our new General, General Gus Perna, Commanding General of the Army Material Command, and his wife, Susan. We also have Lieutenant General Larry Weish, Deputy Commanding General of the Army Material Command and Senior Commander of Redstone Arsenal, and his wife, Denise. We have Tommy Battle, Mayor of the City of Huntsville, and his wife, Eula. We were going to have Paul Finley, Mayor of the City of Madison, but he's caught in traffic, and he'll be a little bit late or might not make it tonight, but that's okay. Our new mayor out in Madison is Paul Finley and his wife, Dr. Julie Finley. Alabama State Representative and the Alabama Speaker of the House, Mac McCutcheon and his wife, Debbie. Alabama State Senator Bill Holtzclaw and his wife, Pam. Alabama State Representative Howard Sandiford and his wife, Dot. Lieutenant General Mark Curran, U.S. Army retired. Lieutenant General Richard Formica, U.S. Army retired. Lieutenant General Kevin Campbell, U.S. Army retired, and his wife, Diane. Dr. Joe Fitzgerald, the civilian aide to the Secretary of the Army, and his wife, Patty. Ms. Alicia Adams, Executive Deputy to the Commanding General, Army Material Command, and her husband, Mr. Tony Adams. Major General Ole Knudsen and his wife, Elizabeth. Major General Grayson Tate, U.S. Army retired. Mr. Robert L. Moore, Deputy to the Commanding General, United States Army Security Assistance Command, and his wife, Marie. Mr. James Johnson, Deputy to the Commanding General, Space and Missile Defense Command, Army Forces Strategic Command. Brigadier General Paul Pardue, Commanding General of the Expeditionary Contracting Command, and his wife, Kelly. Brigadier General Bob Drolet, U.S. Army retired, and his wife, Ann. Brigadier General Morgan Gillette, U.S. Army retired, and his wife, Seal. Dr. Jenny Robinson, of the Huntsville City Council. Our garrison commander, Colonel Thomas Holliday, and his wife, Jennifer. Colonel Michael Osheki, commander of the Fox Army Clinic, and his wife, Ginger. Command Sergeant Major Jose Castillo, Army Contracting Command, and his wife, Nancy. Command Sergeant Major Bernard Smalls, Expeditionary Contracting Command. AUSA's 3rd Region President, Miss Chris McBride. AUSA's Alabama State President, Mr. Dave C. and his wife, Joe. AUSA's Redstone Chapter President, Colonel John Wright, U.S. Army retired, and his wife, Tammy. The President of the North Alabama Veterans and Fraternal Organizations Coalition, Ms. Beverly Lowe. The President of the Redstone Chapter of the U.S. Army Warrant Officers Association, Mr. Gary Myers, and my lovely wife, Ms. Shea, who we cannot forget tonight. Thank you all. Let's welcome our guests tonight. I have asked Dr. Joe Fitzgerald, the civilian aide to the Secretary of the Army for North Alabama, to help us in our remembrance of our POWs and MIAs. Joe will be accompanied by the ladies from the 1st Patriot Support Corps, Miss Brittany Johnson, Miss Rebecca Marino, and Miss Veronica Marino, and bugler Sergeant First Class David Byer, U.S. Army retired. Joe Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Max. Everyone, please remain seated for this portion of this tribute. Ladies and gentlemen, before we begin, I'd like to ask you to charge your glasses and be prepared for a toast. The table that stands before you is a place of honor. In setting this table, we acknowledge those in prison and those missing from our celebration today. We remember them. The table is small and set for one, symbolizing the vulnerability of a lone prisoner against his captors. The tablecloth is white, symbolizing purity of intention and motives in responding to the nation's call to arms and when answering the call to duty. The single red rose displayed in the vase reminds us of the life of each of the missing and the loved ones and friends of those Americans who keep the faith, awaiting answers and awaiting their return. The vase is tied with a yellow ribbon symbolizing the power of the ties that bind us to one another in love and faithfulness. It tells the world that we are remembering someone, and it symbolizes our continued determination to account for our missing. The candle symbolizes the burning hope that lives in our hearts and casts light into the darkness to illuminate their way home, away from their captors and into the opening arms of their loved ones and of a grateful nation. The plate is set but will not be used. On the plate is a slice of lemon to remind us of the bitter fate of those captured and missing. The salt reminds us of the countless tears shed by the families awaiting their return. The wine glass is inverted. They cannot toast with us this day. The chair is empty because they're not here. The Bible represents the strength gained through faith to sustain those lost from our country. Remember all who have served alongside them, who have worn the same proud uniform and sworn to the same faith and allegiance. We will never, ever forget their sacrifice. Let us now rise together and raise our glasses in a toast to honor America's POW MIAs. You are not forgotten so long as there is one left in whom your memory remains. A toast. Until the day they come home, we will remember. The empty place represents Americans still missing from the ranks of our armed forces. This honor ceremony symbolizes that they are with us here in spirit. I'd like to ask you to please join me in a moment of silent prayer. Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated.
Thank you, Joe. And the First Patriot Support Corps. The First Patriot Support Corps is a local effort to involve young people in historical, patriotic, and veterans-related events. It is headed up by Colonel Tom Brown, U.S. Army retired, and assisted by Mrs. Janet Marino. The local AUSA chapter has also started a young professionals group that emphasizes young people being involved in government programs and activities. It is headed up by 34-year-old Leo Gillen. As we celebrate Veterans Day tomorrow, we recognize that today, 10 November, is also a very special day for the U.S. Marine Corps. Happy 241st birthday, United States Marine Corps. If you're a Marine, please stand up. If you're a Marine, please take this time. Let's give a big round of applause for the Marine. Last Friday at the YMCA prayer breakfast, we were honored to recognize a great American veteran in our community who was also a great soldier. We presented Lieutenant General Kevin Campbell, U.S. Army retired, with the Brigadier General Bob Jolet Service to Veterans Award. Let's have a round of applause for Lieutenant General Kevin Campbell. Kevin, you're here. This year marks the 71st anniversary of the end of World War II. I would ask that all members of the greatest generation, World War II veterans, if you're able to, can you please stand and be recognized? Standing there is Miss Alice Bennett. She was a U.S. Marine in World War II, drove trucks. Can you imagine being a Marine, female Marine in World War II? Alice, we love you. Thank you for coming tonight, sweetie. And Harold McMurray, a D-Day veteran, is also standing there. I couldn't get a hold of him to come to the dinner because he still works out at the Moontown Airport as an aviation mechanic, and I couldn't get him on the phone. But thank you for coming tonight, sir. 2016 marks the 63rd anniversary of the Korean War armistice. Tonight, this will not be the forgotten war, as more than 7,800 Americans are still missing from the Korean War. Would all Korean War era veterans please stand and be recognized? Korean War era veterans. Major General Grayson Tate. General, thank you for being here tonight, sir. Our nation continues to honor the veterans of the Vietnam War, especially in this community. Tonight is going to be all about the Vietnam War. We reflect on the more than 3 million Americans who left their families to serve bravely, a world away from everything they knew and everyone that they loved. They answered the call of duty with courage and valor. Would all Vietnam War era veterans please stand and be recognized? After Vietnam came a series of wars and actions such as Panama, Haiti, Somalia, Kosovo, Iraq, Afghanistan, the Cold War, and of course those serving in uniform right now. As we've done since 1919 on November 11th, Americans pay tribute to the men and women who have served and are serving in the nation's armed forces. Would all those who served in that era and those who are currently serving in the United States Armed Forces please stand and permit us to honor you with a small applause. Now we're about to serve dinner. Someone asked me if we had a gluten-free menu, and as it turns out, we don't. We didn't seem to trust people who were allergic to the amber ways of grain. Not sure if you have a problem with the Purple Mountain's majesty, but ladies and gentlemen, we're going to resume our program shortly, but I want you to enjoy your dinner. So dinner served. On the back cover of tonight's program, on the overhead banner to the right of the stage, and on a banner carried on the front of the Veterans Day Parade, are the organizations and businesses that have contributed to make tonight's dinner and all of Veterans Week activities happen. We thank each of our sponsors for their support, because without them, these events would not be possible. Could we get a round of applause for General Dynamics and Lockheed Martin? Bill Weiss from General Dynamics just to come up if you wanted to say anything, Bill. Thank you for coming into Huntsville and visiting us.
Thank you very much, Max. Thrilled to be here and support this great event. To those who are serving and those who have served, thank you very much for everything you do to protect us and keep us safe. Thank you very much.
Mr. Kepler from Lockheed Martin.
But certainly being in this town for 24 years, I am just continually touched by the heart of the veterans, the focus that we put on our veterans, the acknowledgement we do for the men and women that serve this country. So my hat is off to every one of you, and I just praise God that I'm part of this celebration tonight. Thank you very much.
So not only do we want to thank General Dynamics and Lockheed Martin, but also we have platinum sponsors, which is AUSA, the Redstone Huntsville chapter, the Boeing Company. Boeing, thank you. They've reached out to us all this week, and they've been great sponsors for us as well. The City of Huntsville, Mayor Battle has made his entire staff available to us for the parade. He shuts down the entire city for us. Thank you, Mayor Battle. Pretty much whatever we ask from the Parks Department, the police, the fire, they're helping us. And the City of Madison, and we wish the very best to Mayor Finley and his new crew coming into Mayor Madison, or the City of Madison. We also thank our gold sponsors, Northrop Grumman, Raytheon, Redstone Federal Credit Union, SAIC, Van Valkenburg and Wilkinson Realtors, WAFF Channel 48, and Wavelength Incorporated. And please see the slide and your program for our silver sponsors and other people that are helping us in kind and with donations. Let's give a round of applause for all of our sponsors. Veterans Day 2016 and the events leading up to and surrounding Veterans Day are very special in this great community. Tomorrow morning at 11 a.m., the 2016 Huntsville-Madison County Veterans Day Parade will begin. The theme of the parade is a celebration of service. The 2016 Veterans Day Parade reviewing officer is General Gus Perna. General, thank you for accepting our invitation to be our reviewing officer. You're going to have a good time tomorrow, and we'll have a good time knowing that you're there supporting the Veterans Day Parade. He'll review the parade from a special viewing area just in front of the Veterans Memorial Park on Monroe. If you have kids or grandkids, that's the place you want to be tomorrow, at the Veterans Memorial Park on Monroe. We are honored to have as the Grand Marshal of the 2016 Veterans Day Parade, Lieutenant General Larry Weish. He will start the parade at the Veterans Memorial Park, but he's going to jump in the Grand Marshal's Jeep and he's going to be in the parade waving at all of you. So you can be anywhere along the parade route and you'll see General Weish. Thank you, General. Everything we ask General Weish to do, he jumps right in there from an old Georgia boy, I understand. And so he gets us folks here in Alabama too. We really appreciate you, General, for everything that we ask you to do to help us out. General Weish. The best viewing area will be the Veterans Memorial Park, a bit north of us on Monroe Street, but you can also go to Big Street Park or anywhere along the parade route. The parade route is in your program tonight, so you can look at that and see where you, your kids, and grandkids want to be. Veterans Day 2016 promises to be one of the grandest ever. The weather report looks very good for a beautiful fall day tomorrow. You are all invited and we hope to see you at the parade. At this time, please enjoy a video from the Liberty Learning Foundation.
How will our next generation know about sacrifice, about veterans, about leadership, about civic duty? How will they know that freedom is not free? In an age where our youth are at risk of being bombarded by sensational news, distracted by shiny technology, and blinded into idolizing the rich and famous, the Liberty Learning Foundation, headquartered in Huntsville, Alabama, is making sure our next generation is engaged in civics, character, and our great American story. Through the 10-week Super Citizen program, students learn gratitude, honor, and appreciation. They learn about our veterans, our active military, about sacrifice, and the amazing opportunities and responsibilities that come with the title of citizen.
Sponsorship of this program is one that takes a young student and turns them into a citizen and turns them into part of our community. You take it those levels, you're really doing something special.
A vital component of the Super Citizen program is a project-based learning activity where the students honor real American heroes in their communities and learn that when you honor a hero, you become a hero.
I appreciate the fact that as you teach them through this organization that they do learn honor, they do learn integrity, they do learn what it means to serve others. Because we know that if we place others before ourselves, our communities will be so much better.
The program culminates with a celebration graduation where 2nd, 3rd, and 5th grade students present their heroes with meaningful gifts of gratitude. They learn teamwork and entrepreneurialism while raising money for these gifts. And more than anything, our next generation learns how it feels to earn the funds needed to complete their projects. So this year, Liberty Learning teamed up with Lockheed Martin to provide an opportunity for area elementary students to earn their heroes' gifts by folding flags. While the flag folding was already a Lockheed Employee Engagement Project, the company chose to partner with Liberty Learning to take it further, into the classroom and out into the community. The partnership is just one way young Americans are learning about veterans and our country.
We should really appreciate all the people that fought in the war because they could have died and they fought for our country. So that we give them this gift to thank them for fighting for our country.
Ms. Horton, we are so happy to present this statue to you today, representing the 3 statues that your class has earned today by folding flags for Lockheed Martin. Congratulations.
Liberty Learning and thousands of students across Alabama extend our gratitude to you tonight. And we want you to know that we will not stop on our mission to teach that freedom is not free.
Earlier, you were blessed with Lady Liberty singing the national anthem. Lady Liberty is a guest of ours provided by the Liberty Learning Foundation. Joining me now on the stage is Patty Yancey, founder and president of the Liberty Learning Foundation, to talk about the video you just saw and tell you what we are doing with the local youth and their support of service members, veterans, and the veterans community. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Patty Yancey.
Thank you, Max, and good evening to all of you. I am honored and humbled to be representing the Liberty Learning Foundation tonight in front of such a sterling crowd of people. And I'm most grateful to be able to share with you just a wee bit about the Super Citizen Program mission. Civic education, character education, pride and respect of country, and our great American story have all been taken out of the classroom to some degree. All subject matters that have been removed, not at the fault of any particular person or any particular group, and certainly not with any forethought of the repercussions it would have on our nation. If we are remiss in teaching, inspiring, and empowering our children about that one title that they all hold, that title of citizen, then we are certainly doing a disservice to our forefathers, to our country, and to each and every one of you sitting in this room tonight. Ronald Reagan said it best: freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. And John Adams said, liberty once lost is lost forever. You are being honored tonight for a reason. Tomorrow is a United States public holiday for a reason. And our children need to know, understand, and value those reasons. I'd like to connect just a few of the dots in reference to the Super Citizen Program. This year, this school year, we will be in over 1,800 classrooms, 280 schools across the beautiful state of Alabama. There's a beautiful, Statue of Liberty and first person named Libby that you got to see earlier sing the national anthem. She travels with a team in a big blue tour bus, and she shows up in schools and communities all across the state. Her job is to kick off the program in a big way in order to spark the fire and the American spirit that is in the hearts of souls of each one of you sitting in this room tonight. There are big blue, red, white, and blue resource kits that we deploy into the classroom that has all the resources needed to do the program with. Teachers are trained, and over a course of 10 weeks, lessons are taught. Lessons that are already etched in the hearts and souls of every one of you sitting in this room tonight. Lessons on the Statue of Liberty and what she stands for. Lessons on our veterans, on our military, on our great American story. All intertwined with character lessons involving respect, honor, integrity, sacrifice, and gratitude. And then last but certainly not least, the program-based learning activity of the program that you saw on the video. This is where the first through fifth graders students begin to look into their own communities in search of real, everyday heroes who exemplify the very lessons that they are learning about. Heroes that stand up to the test of being called a super citizen in the eyes of our children and in the eyes of our community. And then through just one small hands-on activity called flag folding, these elementary school children learn that the custom of folding the United States flag into the shape of a triangle bestows a unique honor and respect to our flag, to their flag. And by sharing these hand-folded flags at the place settings of the real heroes in our lives, they learn sacrifice and what the cost of freedom really means. My precious grandfather, a World War II vet, taught me the importance of taking care of our home front. You know, because you each one took that pledge. You have upheld your promise, and your promise to preserve our freedoms. And I'm here tonight to give you our pledge that the Liberty Learning Foundation is committed to this country, to its future, and to helping to make sure the freedoms you fought for are never, ever things of the past. Thank you, and God bless.
Outstanding work. Allow me to take a moment to give a special salute to the veterans of the Vietnam War. We wanted to do something special this year, so we thought we'd start with some stories. As we reflect on the 50th anniversary of the Vietnam War, the country is able to take a more measured and sober look back in the war and what we asked our soldiers to do. We all pray that as a country we're learning. Here in Huntsville, in the Huntsville area, many are trying to put the war in perspective. Command Sergeant Major John Perry, U.S. Army retired, has put together the Vietnam War Lecture Series. And Chief Warrant Officer 4 Warren Harmon, U.S. Army retired, recently put together a local chapter of the Vietnam Veterans Association, Chapter 1067, here in Huntsville. And they're a sponsor of the event tonight. These folks are Vietnam veterans who are doing great things for our community. Also, Jeff Wishick is another lieutenant colonel, retired, and he also is with the Vets with Vets and many other organizations, including the Semper Fi Community Task Force. As a Vietnam veteran, is able to look back on his life and do good things for our community. But it's easy to talk of the negative side of the Vietnam War. The PTSD that we didn't have a name for back then. Agent Orange, the suicide rates of veterans. The average age of the U.S. soldier in Vietnam was 19. The fact that South Korea, Germany, and Japan have become economic powerhouses while Vietnam still struggles, even to this day, and of course, Jane Fonda. But did the war accomplish anything positive? I'd like to focus on that just for a moment. I want to quickly share with you two stories from the Vietnam War, stories of how America changed lives. First of all, we know that the American soldiers that served in Vietnam were just regular Joes like you and I, and like any other time in history. They were sent to a place they didn't know for a cause they couldn't understand at the time. The only cause you cling to, by the way, is duty, honor, and country, and of course, your buddies. Meet Sergeant Mike Rose, a simple 22-year-old medic. Just ask him, he's no hero. He was quoted as saying, "I was just doing my job like everyone else." If you read his story, he did probably what anyone would do. Well, maybe not just anyone. After getting bloodied by a rocket and not sleeping for days, he was the only medic that cared for 51 soldiers behind enemy lines. With a damaged hand and foot, he dug long foxholes to roll the wounded into so they wouldn't get shot. He made stretchers from bamboo by hand to be used as litters, because that's what needed to be done. His commander later said, "Rose was a damn good medic." And the level of gallantry and disregard for his own safety that he showed, I've rarely seen anything like it. After 4 days, his team was finally saved. He was one of the last to triumphantly hobble onto a rescue helicopter. It was all over. And then the enemy shot that helicopter down into a river. Bleeding from his head, Sergeant Rose went back to that helicopter time and again until everyone was out. Did I mention he was 22 years old? They put him in for the Medal of Honor back in 1970, but that was turned down because he was fighting in Laos, and our country at the time couldn't say that we were fighting in Laos. But he was finally awarded the country's second highest award, the Distinguished Service Cross, in 1971, 45 years ago. Since those days, Sergeant Rose went on to receive his commission and retired as a captain. I'm happy to tell you that Congress has re-looked at his service and considered him for the Medal of Honor, and we await the President's signature on the 2017 National Defense Authorization Act. And Captain Rose right now awaits a call from the White House for an appointment with the President of the United States for them to sign and approve the medal. If it is awarded, you will see it on the news, of course. Ladies and gentlemen, please say hello to Captain Mike Rose. Mike and his wife Margaret now live here in Huntsville, Alabama. This 69-year-old grandfather, the former medic, lives in a tiny brick home and spends much of his time volunteering with poor and disabled people. On a recent morning, as he gave a tour for his church, he was more eager to talk about the congregation's Tootsie Roll fundraiser than he was about his role as a top secret commando raid. We are so proud to have this gentleman in our community. But not every veteran of war was a soldier. Sun and Tu Vo were a typical young South Vietnamese couple. In their early 20s, with two baby daughters, Sun was a South Vietnamese naval officer who was selected to work alongside the U.S. Navy's 7th Fleet on the USS Turner Joy destroyer during the Vietnam War. Sun got to see and do things with the American Navy he would have never been able to do with the Navy of Vietnam. The Americans taught him modern naval warfare and technology, whereas his experience with the Vietnamese Navy would have only allowed him to work with World War II era vessels. However, even though his Vietnamese naval officer training was cut short due to the war, Sun learned centuries-old technologies such as celestial navigation before graduating as an ensign in the Vietnamese Navy. As a young lieutenant, Sun and his family were given the opportunity to flee Vietnam when the Vietnamese Navy fleet just before the war ended. However, he chose to stay in Saigon with his family, siblings, and aging parents. Within 2 months following the fall of Saigon in 1975, Sun was taken to a re-education and hard labor camp and became a prisoner of war in his own country. He was eventually released after 3 years, but was under constant suspicion in his own land, and he wanted a better life for his family. Sun heard about one of the refugee camps in Malaysia, but there was no way to get there, of course. The going price to escape was 12 bars of gold per person. Cash was useless because of inflation and because the Vietnamese currency was of no value in any other country. People escaping Vietnam at the time would only bring gold and jewelry, which made these small, defenseless boats a target for pirates. Fresh out of prison, Sun barely had food money, and he certainly didn't have anything of value. But he did have a few things. He had family. He had naval officer training modeled from the U.S. Navy's elite training program, and he knew how to navigate a boat using a compass and celestial navigation. Sun was secretly contacted by the owner of a 50-foot fishing vessel who was organizing an escape. The owner agreed to let the Vo family escape for free if Sun would navigate the boat and allow his family to be used as props for the supposed fishing expedition. Months before the escape, the boat owner sold tickets to passengers on his boat for 12 bars of gold per person and prepared tanks of fuel, food, and water for the treacherous journey to freedom. On the day of the voyage, 123 boat people were packed below decks like cordwood, and only essential supplies were loaded. Sun arrived that day with an extra passenger, his sister, to also accompany the family on the escape. The owner reluctantly agreed, and Sun began navigating the boat from Can Thao, Vietnam, down the Mekong River and into international waters. Per Sun's calculations, the trip would take 3 days over open ocean with no radio, no GPS, no maps, and only a compass, the sun, the stars, toward Malaysia. They encountered many challenges on the way to open seas. They were chased by Vietnamese water police and even faced Thai pirates. Sun navigated the boat and didn't stop for any reason, for fear of being captured or being overtaken. Many of the Vo family perished on other boats or had boats that were overtaken by pirates with tragic outcomes. They made it to the refugee camps in Malaysia, and if this was the end of the story, it would be a great story of how America inadvertently helped the family get out of a war-torn land. But as Paul Harvey says, let me tell you the rest of the story. Sun Vo, his sister, his wife,
and their 2 little girls spent 6 months in Malaysia at a refugee camp, and then legally immigrated to the United States in 1978 through sponsorship from a cousin. When they arrived in America, 2 was 5 months pregnant, and their third daughter, who they would name Carolyn. They spoke little English and had about $20, but immediately started working to rebuild their lives. For the first few months in America, they received help from Son's cousin and the generous local church community in a faraway land called Madison County, Alabama. Son worked as a construction site cleanup laborer for his first job and went to Calhoun Community College to obtain an associate's degree in electronics. Within 5 years, Son and 2 studied hard and became U.S. citizens. Now let's stop the story and in your mind's eye, picture the 3 little girls that they had. And if they had remained and lived in Vietnam, what would have become of those 3 little girls? What opportunities would they have had? Would they have been doctors, do you think? Lawyers? Engineers? I won't keep you in suspense. Ladies and gentlemen, please say hello to the American dream, the Vo family. All the sisters grew up and achieved engineering degrees from Auburn University and returned home to Huntsville, Alabama. Julie Vo Wynn became an electrical engineer and obtained her master's degree in computer engineering. She worked at Colsa Corporation and then worked as a government civilian at MRDEC. She is married to Ha Wynn and is now in the toughest job of her life as a stay-at-home mom with 2 sons. Kathy Vo Martin is now the Director of Engineering for the City of Huntsville, Alabama. She has worked in the city's engineering department for 21 years and was appointed by Mayor Tommy Battle in 2012 as the first female city engineer to hold this leadership position. In her position, she collaborates with the Redstone Arsenal Garrison for planning and infrastructure support. She is married to Christian Martin and has 2 daughters. Carolyn Vo Farmer, the little girl born in the USA, became a mechanical engineer and is currently pursuing her master's degree in program management from the Naval Postgraduate School. She has been employed by the U.S. Army MRDEC Engineering Directorate as a government civilian for 15 years and currently serves as the team leader for the Chinook Helicopter and Aviation Special Projects in the RAM Engineering and System Assessment Division. She is currently the project manager for a capstone project through the AMCOM Leadership Investment for Tomorrow, or LIFT program. Carolyn is married to Chris Farmer with 1 son and is expecting a daughter in January. The father, Son Vo, who is sitting over here, retired from Chrysler as an electronics technician after 27 years. Tu Vo, his wife, also employed at Chrysler in their manufacturing assembly line, has also retired. Son has been married to Tu Vo for 46 years. One more time, ladies and gentlemen, the Vo family. At this time, children from Liberty Learning are going to join me to receive 2 statues of liberty. Where are the children at? Get it, kids. Get it. And we're going to present these to Captain Rose and Sun Vo. Inside each of these statues of liberty is an actual piece of metal from the Statue of Liberty, shaped like a heart. The metal is from the statue's renovation project a few years ago and was part of the actual Statue of Liberty for more than 110 years. They've taken metal out of that, shaped it into a heart, and put it inside those statues. Coming to the stage at this time are Miss Beverly Lowe, President of the North Alabama Veterans and Fraternal Organizations Coalition, and Miss Dawn Parrish, the Coalition's Treasurer, to present this year's Organization of the Year and Veteran of the Year awards.
Always have to get up here, and I don't have a step stool like Max. I'm a munch. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As Max told you, I'm Beverly Lowe, President of the North Alabama Veterans and Fraternal Organization Coalition, or as we're affectionately known, the Coalition. This year, we want to recognize a very special organization. Would you, representatives of the Veterans of North Alabama Services Assistant Program, please join me on stage. The Coalition has chosen the Veterans of North Alabama Services Assistance Program as our Organization of the Year. They have worked on many projects throughout the year, fundraising as well as gathering furniture and household goods to furnish houses, turning them into homes for veterans when they are finally able to get off the street. Jane Dow, along with Moses Nervous and a small staff, enlist the help of volunteers to pick up donations from closing hotels or private homes in order to give people who have nothing to begin again with something. They work hard fundraising and finding good, gently used items to gift worthy veterans. We are proud to congratulate Veterans of North Alabama Services Assistance Program. Next, we're going to present to the Veteran of the Year. What is a Veteran of the Year? A veteran that has over the past year given his or herself to the community and veterans above and beyond what is ever expected. A veteran that upholds a code of honor and is respect of everyone. Well, Al Reed, please join me on stage. I keep turning away from this microphone. A veteran that steps forward when he sees a need to be done and gets it done. He doesn't ask why or how long it's going to take, doesn't want credit, just steps up and steps in. You'll always see him in the background, working, and it's a pleasure to announce this year, NAVFOC Veteran of the Year is retired Army CW3 Al Reed. Officers Association, who runs our parade tomorrow. He's a member of the Patriot Guard, the Redstone Arsenal Retiree Council. He worked with Operation Christmas Bear during its 10 years run. He works with Pins for Vets, who made wooden pins for veterans for years, and still does. He's worked on the Veterans Day Parade for years. He does work with the Doobie Women's Club. He works with the Semper Fi Community Task Force, who hosts veterans for a week after it has, and this is the 10-year anniversary. He works with Elvis for Vets, who brings concerts here to raise money. And he still finds time to spend time with Alex, his grandson, who's pictured here. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me congratulate Al again on all the work he does in our community.
Good work done by a lot of good people. You can't believe how many, oh, you could believe, this is the wrong word for that. But so many people behind the scenes just doing it day after day. Coming to the stage right now are the James Clemens High School Choir Small Ensemble, led by choir director Harris Kessler. They will be sharing a special presentation of In Flanders Field and Homeland. These students dedicate their performance tonight to Zach Polo, a former choir member, fellow classmate in 2016, James Clemens High School graduate. All Zach ever wanted to do was be a U.S. Marine. He was known to speak with great pride and determination. And even in high school, he knew he always wanted to commit his life to serving his country. Zach Boland died last week. I'm going to have that choir. Come on. Zach died last week in basic training in the U.S. Marine Corps boot camp at Paris Island, South Carolina. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the James Clemens Choir Small Ensemble. Outstanding. If you have kids in school, you want to be in Huntsville, Madison, or Madison County, my wife and I, we moved here especially so that our kids would be in a school in this county. And these are the kids right down the road from us. Really proud. At this time, I'd like to invite Mr. Bob Marshall, Mr. Leonard Robinson, and Mr. Tom Kennemer to the stage. Bob is the president of the Madison County Military Heritage Commission and will set the stage for the Hall of Heroes induction ceremony, which is what tonight's really all about. Leonard Robinson is the president of the Purple Hearts Association here in Huntsville. Information for these ceremonies is shown on pages 10, 11, and 12 in your program. And I invite Mr. Marshall to the microphone.
Distinguished guests and friends, it seems to me that American freedom is a bit like the air we breathe. Abundant, transparent, shared by all. So easy to overlook or take for granted. And that's the reason I love Veterans Week here in Madison County, and in particular this event, where we as a community take time every year to stop and consider how we obtained our freedoms and the stories of those who secured it and passed it on to us. This year, quite by happenstance, all 6 of the inductees to the Hall of Heroes are veterans of the Vietnam War. And add to that the fact that 9 of the 12 board members of the Madison County Military Heritage Commission are also Vietnam vets, whom I've gotten to know and work with quite a lot over the past many years. They are a fantastic bunch of Americans whom I hold in great respect. So you can understand that their experience in particular caught my imagination as this year I pondered what it must have been like for them, especially on this side of the combat tour. Of course, things have changed a lot in the ensuing 40 or 50 years. Today, our military and its mission is held almost universally in high esteem, in large part due to them. But they served in a time of great social upheaval and an unpopular war. Many were drafted, many volunteered. None shirked their duty to defend their country. 50 years ago, at the end of 1966, the number of U.S. forces in Vietnam would exceed 350,000. As in every age, those who experienced combat went through cycles of hardship, intense fear, tactical victory, and personal loss. And long periods of boredom. They longed for letters from home. They longed to be home, to be clean and dry for once, to feel human again. For those who managed to survive, that day came by medevac or by reaching their end of tour, routinely a year long in those days. After they boarded an Air Force transport plane, many from above would see the highlands of the Mekong Delta or the rice paddies one last time, and then they were on their way. We've heard the stories, you've heard the stories, that at some point short of their destination, many were told to take their uniform off, put on civilian clothes, and try to ignore the protesters and blend in. And so began this very difficult, very personal experience of coming home from Vietnam. For those of us who did not experience war as they did, I think it's very difficult for us to comprehend, to come to terms with what they felt and saw when they returned to the States. It's almost unthinkable today. But I can tell you, there's still pain, there are still tears in those memories. Few political leaders stood up for them and commended them for their sacrifice and service. And so many vets were treated with contempt by the very ones they sought to protect. Those were perhaps the deepest, most bitter wounds suffered by those returning from Vietnam. And in spite of all this, they never raised a fist. They never turned their back to the flag, to their nation, or to their fellow Americans. And they taught those of us who followed how to fight with confidence and win. All the while, they were determined that no American serviceman would ever suffer the kind of humiliation that they had. And they accomplished that mission. If you are a Vietnam veteran, I would ask you, would you please rise once again? Because I want to speak to you very directly and personally. Thank you for all that you did for this country. Thank you that you never gave up or gave in. Thank you for keeping faith with us all. You are the noblest generation of American warriors. You're now to conduct our Hall of Heroes induction ceremony as a Marine Corps Vietnam veteran and fellow Military Heritage Commission Board member, Tom Kenneman. Tom?
Thank you, Bob. First of all, I'd like to introduce several others that I'd like to have on the stage here to help Bob and I and Leonard to present the awards for this year's Hall of Heroes for 2016. If you don't mind, please hold your applause until they're all in place. I'll call them up in the order they will be in the receiving line following Bob Marshall. In this year's ceremony, we are including the presentation of Purple Heart certificates to 4 of our inductees. Each sustained battle wounds while serving in the Republic of Vietnam. Making the presentations will be the commander of the local chapter of the Military Order of the Purple Heart, Leonard Robinson. Leonard is also a member of our commission here, as well as a Hall of Heroes member himself. Leonard, would you want to sit on stage, please? Also, I'd like to have General Gus Vernon, Commanding General of the Army Material Command on Redstone. General, if you'll join us, sir. Also, Mayor Tommy Ballard. If you join us, Mayor. Mr. Joe Fitzgerald, civilian aide to the Secretary of the Army for Northern Alabama. Joe. And Redstone AUSA Chapter President John White. Worth mentioning, and again, I understand Max told me to do this, okay? John is the president of the world's best AUSA chapter for 2016. Another round of applause. And Beverly Lowe, president, Veterans and Fraternal Organizations Coalition. Let's give these folks a round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed a privilege each year to have the honor to present to you those who exemplify what patriotism and devotion to duty truly means to our country.
I'll now read the names and the deeds of those who will be inducted tonight into the Madison County Military Heritage Hall of Heroes, and to those to be enrolled in the Purple Heart Honor Roll. Our first inductee tonight will be Richard L. Gray. Richard, if you'll join us here on stage. Richard was awarded the Bronze Star with Valor for his bravery in combat on November 5th, 1969 in the Republic of Vietnam. Then a captain, Gray was serving as commander of E Company, 4th Airborne Battalion of the 503rd Infantry. Captain Gray was in command of a sweep operation on Sniper's Island, located along the Vietnamese coast, when lead elements of the reconnaissance platoon made contact with an estimated 9 to 10 Viet Cong, returned a heavy volume of fire with automatic weapons and hand grenades. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Captain Gray rushed forward to the leading element despite the intense enemy barrage. Once on the scene, he constantly exposed himself to enemy fire in order to direct and reorganize his troops and to successfully execute the evacuation of casualties. As the contact continued to rage, Captain Gray again braved the enemy fire, displaying a total disregard for his personal safety by standing to direct and adjust gunship fire against the enemy. As a result of Captain Gray's actions, displaying courage and bravery under fire, Company E was able to eliminate 7 Viet Cong and capture 2 AK-50 weapons. Captain Gray's personal bravery and devotion to duty, in keeping with the highest traditions of the military service, and reflect great credit upon himself, his unit, and the United States Army. Ladies and gentlemen, Richard L. Gray. Richard will be the first of 4 of our inductees tonight to receive a Purple Heart certificate for wounds suffered during combat. He was wounded twice while serving in the country. During his first tour, he sustained a wound to his left hand, and in his second deployment, he suffered wounds to his back, left leg, and lost the lower part of his right leg. Sure didn't slow him down. He remained on active duty at various posts until his retirement as a lieutenant colonel in 1982. Richard and his wife Janet have been married 46 years and have 2 children and 1 grandchild, Tyler, who is 18 months old. Tyler is the son of their daughter Jerry, who is a Navy commander stationed in San Diego. After his retirement, Richard worked with the Nichols Corporation for some 15 years. Richard L. Gray, ladies and gentlemen. Earned the Braun Star Medal with Valor for heroism while serving as a Marine platoon commander in the Republic of Vietnam. Second Lieutenant Kazarski, serving with the 1st Battalion, 9th Marines, on April 29, 1968, was on patrol with his platoon in the Khe Sanh area of Vietnam, when the Marines suddenly came under intense small arms and automatic weapons fire from a large North Vietnamese Army force. In the ensuing firefight, his unit sustained numerous casualties and was pinned down. Without hesitation, Lieutenant Kozarski deployed a machine gun team into a more favorable position and skillfully directed the delivery of accurate fire, which silenced 2 enemy weapons and enabled several Marine casualties to receive medical attention. While moving about the fire-swept area, Lieutenant Kozarski alertly observed 5 enemy soldiers moving toward his wounded men. Reacting instantly, he threw 2 hand grenades that eliminated the hostile threat. Lieutenant Kozarski was wounded during the firefight, but steadfastly refused medical attention until all of his men had been cared for first. Second Lieutenant Kozarski's courage, superb leadership, and unwavering devotion to duty in the face of great personal danger inspired all who served with him and were in keeping with the highest traditions of the U.S. Marine Corps and the United States Naval Service. Ladies and gentlemen, Anthony Paul Kozarski. Tony is also the recipient of the Navy Achievement Medal with Valor for his bravery during combat in Vietnam. Tony is receiving a Purple Heart tonight after being wounded twice in battle while serving with the 9th Marines near Quezon. In March of 1968, he received a shrapnel wound, and in April of that year suffered a wound to his right arm. Tony and his wife Rose have been married for 51 years. They have 2 daughters and 4 grandchildren, including a set of twins. One of their daughters, Michelle, was born while Tony was in Vietnam. He finally got to see her some 9 months later. Tony worked with the Firth Sterling Carbide Corporation here in Madison County for many years, retiring in 2010. Tony Kozarski. For heroism in connection with ground operations against enemy forces in Vietnam, U.S. Army Private First Class Lou Panton was awarded the Bronze Star Medal with Valor. On June 13, 1970, Company D, 2nd Battalion, 1st Infantry, Americal Division, was conducting a routine combat mission near Cam Ranh Bay, Vietnam. As his company was entering a hamlet, VFC Hamlin was the point man at the time, observed several Viet Cong soldiers attempting to evade the search. Responding immediately, VFC Pamplin began pursuing the insurgents. They realized they were being followed. The enemy soldiers began firing their weapons. Ignoring the danger involved, Private Pamplin returned the fire with highly accurate burst from his own weapon. As he approached the hostile emplacement, amid a heavy barrage of enemy rounds, he used hand grenades and his own rifle to neutralize the enemy position. Through his timely and courageous actions, he was largely responsible for the overall success of the mission and the securing of valuable enemy documents. Private First Class Pamlin's personal heroism, professional competence, and devotion to duty are in keeping with the highest traditions of the military service and reflect great credit on himself, the Americal Division, and the United States Army. Ladies and gentlemen, may I present Lou Pamplin. County here in the service in 1969 and went through basic training at Fort Benning. Lou is receiving his Purple Heart certificate tonight for wounds he suffered during the before-mentioned battle near Cameron Bay. Lou's entire squad was hit by a booby trap. He was wounded in the right arm and left leg. He was the last of his squad to be evacuated. He and his wife, Teresa, have been married for 22 years now. They have 2 daughters and a son and 2 grandchildren, with another grandchild due just any time. Matter of fact, Lou and Teresa left the car running outside in case they have to leave real quick. When they have the opportunity, Lou and Teresa love to travel. Now I understand Teresa loves to shop, and guess who gets dragged along on those shopping sprees? You guessed it. Lou, I feel your pain. Is the recipient of 2 awards of the Distinguished Flying Cross for heroism in aerial flight above and beyond the call of duty. On September 20th, 1967, while serving as an aircraft commander with the U.S. Army's 191st Assault Helicopter Company in the Republic of Vietnam, Warrant Officer Stitt was on duty during a night assault on a Viet Cong infested area near Tan True in southwestern Vietnam. Learning that his platoon was engaged in heavy contact and had lost 1 aircraft to enemy ground fire, without hesitation, Warrant Officer Stitt volunteered to fly another aircraft in to support his platoon. Under extremely intense enemy ground fire, his helicopter was hit on the right side, and Warrant Officer Stitt was wounded by shrapnel when he entered the landing zone. After managing a safe touchdown in an obscure and dark landing zone, he realized the necessity for a second airlift. Despite his wounds, he insisted on making another insertion in the same area of battle. Upon completion of his mission, Warrant Officer Stitt was evacuated to receive medical attention. For his heroic actions in January of 1968, Warrant Officer Stitt received his 2nd award of the Distinguished Flying Cross. Again, while serving as an aircraft commander, he helped extract the unit that had been pinned down by an enemy force again in the Tan True area of southwestern Vietnam. On the first airlift of a 2-lift troop extraction, his aircraft came under intense enemy fire. He was able to maneuver his aircraft through the hostile fire and land safely. Once the troops were on board, Warrant Officer Stitt skillfully flew his heavily laden aircraft out of the landing zone to safety. On the 2nd lift, the enemy was even better prepared, and his aircraft came under a greater barrage of gunfire. Once again, he was able to maneuver his helicopter through the curtain of fire and land safely to pick up his troops. On takeoff, round after round slammed into his aircraft, even wounding 1 of the soldiers on board. But through skill and determination, he was able to fly out of the pickup zone. His actions were in the highest traditions of military service and reflect great credit on himself, his unit, and the United States Army. Ladies and gentlemen, Harold W. Stitt. Harold is originally from Altoona, Pennsylvania. That's 2 of our inductees tonight from the Keystone State, of course, Tony Kozarski being the first. Harold spent 20 years in the U.S. Army with 2 tours in Vietnam in the early 70s. He was command pilot for General Creighton Abrams, who was commander of all Allied forces in Vietnam. Harold is our 4th inductee tonight to be honored with a Purple Heart certificate for injuries he suffered during combat in Vietnam. As mentioned earlier, Harold was wounded on his first tour in Vietnam. He suffered a wound to his left leg, and despite his injury, he was able to land his aircraft and airlift his troops to safety. Harold and his wife Virginia, who sadly passed away this past December, married 52 years. They had 3 children, including a set of twins. Harold is the proud grandfather of 2 grandchildren, and when he's not involved with the grandkids' sporting events, he enjoys bowling. He's been a member of the Redstone Bowling League now for 38 years. Johnny E. Davis is the recipient of the Braun Star Medal with Valor for his heroic action while serving with the U.S. Army in Vietnam. Specialist 4 Davis was a helicopter crew member with the 17th Air Cav serving in the Con Tum City area of South Vietnam. On May 17, 1972, Specialist 4 Davis was in a bunker awaiting orders for the next mission when an Air Force C-130 crashed during takeoff near their base. Specialist 4 Davis, along with his fellow crew members, rushed to their assigned helicopter and immediately flew to the crash site to try and rescue and help any survivors of the downed aircraft. After landing near the site where the plane went down, without hesitation, Specialist 4 Davis rushed into the wreckage and the engulfing flames and smoke to rescue 2 injured crew members and hurriedly carried them to safety aboard a medevac helicopter, which rushed them to emergency care. Almost immediately after the rescue was complete, several explosive devices that were aboard the downed aircraft started going off, leaving nothing but rubble at the crash site. The heroism displayed by Specialist 4 Davis was in keeping with the highest traditions of our military service and reflect great credit on himself, his unit, and the United States Army. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Johnny E. Davis. Johnny is originally from Spruce Pine, North Carolina. He returned from Vietnam in 1972. He was stationed at Redstone. Soon thereafter, he met his future wife, Brenda. They've been married now for 44 years. They have 3 children and 12 grandchildren. Johnny, he and his wife, Brenda, have 12 grandkids. Johnny Davis. William J. Hoagland is the recipient of the Distinguished Flying Cross for his heroic actions on March 21st, 1967 in the Republic of Vietnam. While serving with the aviation unit of the 25th Infantry Artillery Division, Warrant Officer Hoagland was called upon to fly the division artillery commander to the scene of a major assault by an estimated 5 battalions of Viet Cong main unit forces. In spite of defense low-level clouds, Warrant Officer Hoagland was able to fly his helicopter to the scene of the battle, and upon arrival, he found that artillery was firing from 2 different directions into the battle area, and an airstrike was in progress just east of the fire support base. Several other light aircraft were over the area, directing the airstrikes, adjusting artillery fire, and guiding mechanized units to the relief of the embattled base. The low cloud ceiling made it impossible for these aircraft to land safely and forced Warrant Officer Hoagland to fly at an altitude where he was constantly exposed to heavy ground fire. He skillfully avoided other aircraft in the area and totally ignored the danger from ground fire as he courageously kept his helicopter positioned for maximum observation. When the enemy was driven back sufficiently to eliminate small arms fire, Warrant Officer Hoagland made a dangerous descent, passing over hostile areas at low altitude to land safely in the fire support base. His outstanding heroism and devotion to duty are in keeping with the highest traditions of the military service and reflect great credit on himself, his unit, 25th Infantry Division, and the United States Army. Ladies and gentlemen, William J. Hoagland. Bill is originally from Washington State. He and his wife Nancy have been married 46 years. They have one daughter and 2 grandchildren. Bill served 20 years in the Army, starting out as an enlisted man and retiring as a major. He had 2 tours in Vietnam. In 1967, Bill was command pilot for Lieutenant Colonel John Vesey, who, as you'll recall, became chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff in 1982. Many of you remember the Hearts Delights Arts and Crafts store in Huntsville. Bill and Nancy purchased the store in 1994. One of my wife's favorite places. Bill, I spent a lot of money there. At least you could buy my lunch sometime. Bill Hoagland. We're going to take a few pictures here and we'll let our inductees this year return to their seats in just a few moments. All receiving a bouquet of roses. That's a good looking group, isn't it? Turn your seats. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, it's our Madison County Military Heritage Inductees of 2016. Big round of applause. This time, I'd like to turn our program back over to our Master of Ceremonies, Max Bennett. There's Max.
Remember, Tom, when little MCs grow up, they want to be Tom Kennedy. That's what I hear. Thank you, Tom, very much. Thank you to all the veterans and the families of veterans. I've got a few closing things we want to do real quick. First of all, I want to thank Tammy Wright, Kinsey Lindstrom, Carol Wall from Team Redstone, Amelia Flanagan from Team Redstone, Command Sergeant Major John Perry, and Warrant Officer Andy Hack. They are my right arms for everything happening this week. You probably won't see them, but they're back there making things happen, and I really appreciate them. It's been a wonderful evening, and as you know, it takes a combined effort of many people to support our community's Veterans Day events. And for whatever part you played in making tonight happen and the rest of this week happen, I want to thank you. We want to give special recognition to the entire Veterans Events Planning Committee. Would all the planning committee members, those people I just mentioned, and everybody who helped set up the dinner and the rest of the week, would you please stand up and be recognized, please? Everybody who helped put this together. Special thank to Lockheed Martin's Justin Greaves. He's up in the Eagle's Nest there helping us with sound and video. They volunteer their time, and Lockheed Martin does that for us. The BBC staff for the beautiful room tonight. The video and Sean Brisendine for preparing tonight's printed program, which is beautiful tonight, and the slides as well. I want to give a very special thanks to the Redstone Jazz Project right over here, Redstone Arsenal's own. Can you give them a round of applause? We don't have a jazz club here in Huntsville, but if we did, they'd be there and I'd be paying for it. So I tell you what, they're really good. Special thanks to the James Clemens High School Ensemble. I hope that you noticed almost everything that we did tonight involved young people. That's done on purpose. We got high school students here. If you notice behind the Hall of Heroes inductees, there were JROTC students. They are educated about what's happening. They take this very seriously, and we are trying to include them in everything that we do. As is tradition, ladies and gentlemen, if you or a family member or a loved one served in the armed forces, I want you to stand when the service song is played, because I love this. We're going to do the Armed Forces medley. The band, please. Asked me to do it again. So here's the fighting, stealing, cheating, and drinking. I hope the next time you fight for a brother. And if you steal, I hope you steal someone's heart. The next time you cheat, I hope that you cheat death. And if you must drink and you're a veteran, I hope that you drink with me. You'll have a good night. Good night.